Hello and welcome to another episode of a Brothers Creed podcast where we talk about motivation, experiences, and exploring the world around us. We're the Thomas Brothers. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Jared, and we are going to talk about the virtue of kindness, which is good to talk about at this Christmas season. This is our kind of Christmas episode for those that are listening. Christmas is coming up on Sunday, and what a better time to talk about kindness and what that means and how we can be more kind, and maybe share a few stories. So join us for the episode today. Just a short episode because I know you're probably busy wrapping presents and getting everything ready, but it'll be good send off for this weekend as you go into the Christmas weekend and also in the new year. So let's do it.
All right, let's get into it.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare.
If I can change, and you can change, everybody can change!
Let us all unite! Let us fight for a new world, a decent world.
Okay, so kindness. I think this is an attribute or a virtue that should apply to every facet of your life. Not just during the Christmas season, but hey, this is where we are, and we're gonna be talking about it here and giving some examples and talking through it. As always, in some of these episodes that we did a little research on kindness, and the best, I guess, definition or explanation that I came to was that kindness is a compassionate and considerate attitude or behavior that is characterized by a desire to help or show consideration for others. So, by a desire to help or show consideration for others. It involves acting in ways that are gentle, caring, understanding, and that seek to minimize harm or suffering.
Yeah, I think that one important piece there is just like being considerate. Sometimes, people can be unkind because they just are not considerate of others. Sometimes I think intentionally, and then other times I think unintentionally. So I think that this kind of goes back to another virtue that we've talked about. It's just like the virtue of being self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, in line if you're going in the grocery store and like you just are focused on what you're doing and you just jump in front of somebody in line, and you didn't even see them there, or they were standing kind of back, that could be inconsiderate. So being self-aware, looking around, paying attention to what you're doing can kind of prevent you from being unintentionally inconsiderate of people, because you'll actually know what you're doing and you'll be intentional about what you're doing, as far as not making mistakes, but also as far as intentionally considering people when doing things like, I'm going to go do X thing. I need to go, spend the day doing this away from the house. Like, now I need to be considerate of, my wife. What impact does it have on her? What impact does it have on the kids or others? Or if I park in this parking spot up front, what impact does it have on other people? So I think it's just thinking through things can really help you develop a sense of when to employ kindness.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and it's kind of interesting because there's like a paradigm or whatever else that it's kind of the nice guy comes in last. All right, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. That it's always, it seems like the nice guy always gets put in the friend zone, right? And the girl always goes for like the jerk or the guy that's not treating her how maybe she should be treated. I've always just kind of thought that, and maybe it's just because I've been a nice guy and I've been on that side maybe. But I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you think about the last guys always come last when it comes to girls?
Well, when it comes to girls, I think that,
Or even like, I think sometimes that could be true in like business too. It's like, oh, the nice guy gets run over, or, is not
I think
assertive.
that
Assertive, like, oh, he's just so nice all the time. He's not being assertive, or
I think that, and I've actually, yeah, I've been thinking about that too. I don't think that being confident, being bold, being forthright in what you're saying, and confident. It's hard to say. Maybe just confidence is what I'm thinking. I don't think that and being kind are mutually exclusive. You don't have to be like an a-hole to be successful in business. You can walk up to a girl and you can be smooth and confident, but you can also be kind at the same time. You walk up to her and say, "Hey, you're looking. I don't
mighty
want to be.
fine.
I don't want to be. Or I haven't had to pick up girls in a long time, except for my wife.
It seems like it's been a while, Jared.
I don't want to say something creepy. The dynamic has changed nowadays. It's not the same that it was when I was younger. But go up to someone and say, "Hey, my name is Jared. What's your name? I noticed that you have this sticker on your water bottle. Have you seen that movie? Or I think that's a great book or something." And you could. That's like being kind, but also being confident. And I think that women more gravitate towards confidence, and that is admired. Confidence and strength than per se like a guy is a jerk. I think that guys that are jerk often overcompensate. They seem overconfident because they're just so loud and whatnot. So I think that sometimes it has the appearance of being like confident, but really it's just a jerk. I think also some girls will want to try to change, they want to try to change or like reform a guy. And so I think that there's a bit of like a challenge there that they want to accept. But in the end, like when they're 10 years into their marriage and their husband's like abusing them still, emotionally and physically, they're like, yeah, maybe I should have married a kinder man. So the joke's on them in the end, right? Actually, the joke's on the husband because he ends up having to pay alimony to
child support,
kids.
yeah. Which he should pay child support, I guess, if they're his kids. But so I completely agree with that, and I think a key thing of what you said there is I think girls are attracted to confidence, and I think you can be confident. I think you can be assertive. I think you can be forward. I think you can be all those things, but not lose kindness. I think there's a difference between kindness and being a pushover. And so I kind of want to get, I had kind of gone into some of the pros and cons of kindness, but before I get there, I want to talk about what's the opposite of kindness.
Well, I just,
Go ahead.
before we jump into that, I was going to say how many, some of the coolest guys in the world that you could say, like pro athletes or even like movie stars and stuff. You see a football player or a baseball player runs up to a little kid in the stadium and gives them a ball, or a hockey player that gives a little kid his stick or his jersey. I mean, those are acts of kindness, I think, in a way, and that's not a weakness at all. That's just being a good person and being kind. So I don't think that you can still be kind while also being confident, cool, suave. You could still be that James Bond type character that you want to be, I guess, and still be kind. James Bond's a nice guy,
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't bubbly. You don't have to be bubbly and just like, oh, I'm so excited all the time and like I'm just so friendly and outgoing. I mean, you don't have to be like that to be kind. There's different like ways to be kind. It's not just like the extreme extrovert, like, oh, hey, I just am so talkative and I'm so whatever, You can be kind in other ways.
Yeah. Just because someone is quiet doesn't mean they're not kind.
Exactly.
So the opposite of kindness is cruelty or harshness. Mm-hmm. Cruelty is characterized by lack of compassion or empathy and a willingness to cause harm or suffering to others. So a willingness, so like knowing that what you're going to do is going to cause harm or suffering to others. It can take many forms, including physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, neglect, among some other things. And so, yeah, I think it's almost like the malicious desire to cause harm or suffering. If something it happens accidentally, sometimes you do something accidental or you say something, going back to the being kind of self-aware, you say something stupid and you're like, shoot, I didn't mean to, I that didn't come out right, or, maybe it caused harm to someone, but it was maybe an accident. I wouldn't say that's malicious or cruel or harsh. I think it's just, you let something slip, or you're not being self-aware. And so I think that's kind of the difference. One is specifically aimed at the consideration of others, and the other one is specifically aimed at causing harm or suffering for others.
Yeah, exactly. And they can be intentional or unintentional.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes the kindness that we show will never be. Sometimes it's just down the road, like, I'm driving like down the road and I see something in the middle of the road. I could just swerve around it and keep going, but maybe I stop, go throw it on the side of the road because I don't want someone like hitting it. I don't want someone else hitting it. And that's kind of a kindness of something that I won't see, but it's someone might happen to someone later. Like, I think I was riding on the road once and there was like a bunch of like branches that had fallen off of a like a truck, and everybody was just going around them, and I had kind of pulled up and it was kind of my turn to go around it like everybody had been doing. I just put my hazards on, went up and just took the branches and just moved them to the side of the road, and then just got back in my car, kept going. And I was like, what if, someone's coming down this road? What if it was my wife coming down this road and then she hit those branches and then she's got kids in the car and stuff? I mean, that would be awful. So, that's kind of a way that you can show kindness, but it's not necessarily to any person that you might see. It's just down the road. It's to the next people coming down the way,
Yeah. I'm a I'm a firm believer in karma. And whether you're religious or not, or whatever it may be, I think that you will receive from this world what you give to this world. And if not immediately, over a lifetime, people have what's coming to them, whether that's good or whether that's bad.
Yep.
And so one story that's a personal story that I have kind of equated to that, maybe in a more spiritual sense, but I think if you just looked at it just in a general karma sense as well. I remember one time I was driving. This is when I was in college out in Idaho, and it was a nice day, and I was driving. I actually was going to school, and there was a person that was pulled over on the side of the road, and they had their hazards on. They were standing by their car, and they, you could tell that they were kind of had a very worried look on their face. And I had a little bit of time to kill before I needed to get to class, but I saw it and I felt like, maybe I should stop and help, right? But then I was just like, no, because then I got to deal with that or whatever, and I just went on. And then I just kind of had this and I didn't even, I didn't help. And it's not a big town, so it would have been nothing to give somebody a ride over to the other side of town or whatever. So that kind of, it just ate at me. I was like, man, I felt that I should have stopped and helped or done something, but I just kind of forewent that feeling, and I really didn't like that. It just kind of sat with me. It was sat with me for days. It just man, I specifically felt that I should do something kind for a specific person, and I was like, why didn't I do it? So then I kind of made a personal vow to myself that I was like, hey, I am going to, anytime I feel the prompting to help someone, no matter what it is, I'm gonna do it, because I hate this feeling, and selfishly I don't want to feel this way anymore, right? And so I would say probably 6 months later, the same place in Idaho, except it's the middle of the winter. It's icy, it's snowy, and I'm driving my truck, and I'm driving home, and I'm not in a huge rush, but conditions are kind of bad. And there was a younger girl that had tried to pull off to the side of the road, but had got kind of wedged into the snowbank. And she was out there in like this dress and like Sunday shoes, trying to dig out with her hands her car. And so I'm like, okay, this is my opportunity. I saw it and I was like, hey, you should stop and help. And so I jumped out of the car. I immediately pulled over and jumped out. And then as soon as I got out of the car, the car that was behind me, it was kind of at a four-way intersection where the direction that I was going, you did not have to stop, but the cars at the other intersection, the T's to the intersection, they had stop signs and they were supposed to stop. Well, the car behind me, because I had stopped, he went around me and went through the intersection like he was supposed to, didn't have a stop sign, so didn't stop. But there was another car that was coming down going too fast that was supposed to stop. They had a stop sign, but they were sliding on the ice and then ended up T-boning that car that had just been behind me.
No way.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, geez, like that 100% would have been me getting T-boned if I wouldn't have stopped.
Dang.
And so, it was just kind of, I guess, and then I got an opportunity to help two sets of people, right? But ever since that moment, I've always felt like if I feel something like a desire to do some sort of act of kindness or help someone, that whether it's large or small, to do what I can, because good things will come out of it for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I think that, honestly, I've been in the same situation. There's been a few times driving home from work where I've seen some people with some car issues, and I'm like, oh, I should stop, but I'm like, I don't know what to do, or I wish I had a tow rope here.
You can't stop every time, but
yeah. But that's a really cool story. Also, the person that got T-boned, you're like walk up to him like, hey, thanks for helping, by the way, back there.
Yeah. Hey, if you would have stopped and helped, that probably wouldn't happen. No, I didn't rub it
Oh
in.
my gosh. So I wanted to talk about a few ways that people can, like, some reasons why people should be kind, and these are kind of, some of them are self-serving, but some of them are not. So the first one is that kindness promotes happiness. Really, there's been research that has shown that performing acts of kindness can increase levels of happiness and well-being. And when we do something kind for someone else, it can give us that sense of satisfaction and purpose, like you had said. The second one here is kindness fosters positive relationships. So being kind to others can help build and strengthen your relationships. Obviously, if you're mean, if you're indifferent, which is in the middle, or if you're cruel or unkind, people aren't going to want to be around you. So being kind fosters those relationships, which is good for you and then also good for them, because so having good relationships is so important, that we need to foster that trust, respect, and love with other people. Kindness also promotes social connections. Being kind to others can help us feel more connected to communities, and can foster a sense of belonging. When we engage in acts of kindness, it can help us feel more connected to others. It can lead to an increased social support and a sense of community, which is critical. Kindness can also have a ripple effect. You've seen that movie Pay It Forward, where the kid does like an act of kindness. I think he does 3 acts of kindness. Then he says, okay, now pay this forward. And then it's like just this ripple effect of kindness where people say, oh, someone did this to me, I got to pay this forward. And I think that is one of the stories that, Christ talked about with the debtor, the man who owed. He said there was once a man who owed tons of money, right? He owned he had borrowed just an unbelievable amount of money. And he went and he begged for forgiveness, and he was forgiven of his loan, of his debt. And then that same man went and was shaking down some other guy who owed him barely anything at all. And then in the end, the guy who had forgiven the man in the beginning says, "Hey, I'm going to put you in jail now because I forgave you all this debt, and you couldn't forgive someone who owed you like hardly anything. You couldn't forgive him." So I think that that's kind of a story that Christ told that kind of exemplifies not passing forward that kindness. And like the example here is that, well, I guess the analogy that he was giving is that we've been forgiven of all of our Christ has suffered for us, forgiven us of all of our sins. Can't we forgive one another? Or we're going to hold a grudge over someone for something petty, for cutting us off in traffic or whatever, while we've been forgiven for all that we've done. So I think that is kind of that sense of like just pass on that kindness. And I think that's what Christ was getting at with that. And then the last one here is that kindness is good for your health. Research has shown that as you engage in active kindness, there's numerous health benefits, such as reducing stress, improving your cardiovascular health, and boosting your immune system. So there's societal benefits, there's relationship, social benefits, and then there's also health benefits to being kind.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would say that I'm typically a relatively kind person unless I'm driving. And then I don't know what happens to me, but my aggression comes out.
Gosh.
But I completely agree. I think just even the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
I thought it was he who has the gold makes the rules.
Yeah, well, that's the first part. And so I completely agree with you. When I looked at it, I even kind of looked into the pros and cons of kindness. And the pros were really all the things that you said. It can improve your mental and physical health. It can build stronger relationships. It can help you even with more with help lead to professional success. Being kind. I think it's something that it can deepen connections. You had said that. When you look at the cons of kindness, it's kind of a weird thing to ask or to look at, but there are some potential, let's say, perceived downsides to kindness. For example, if you are too kind, you may be taken advantage of or mistreated. I think a lot of times people run into this that are they are yes people. They can't say no, and so they'll just always say yes, 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 and that's because they're just really freaking nice people when their whole world might be crumbling down and they don't have any time for anything. They'll say yes to do something for someone else just because they don't want to say no. And
I think that part of that is, I think that in some cases isn't kindness. I think that it's avoidance of conflict.
Yeah,
because
or I think you almost want to avoid a perception of not being kind. Not that it is,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kinder to say, you know what, I can't. I don't want to lose. I don't want to do something that's poor quality, or I don't want to make a mistake if I'm doing you a favor, or do it,
or I just don't have time.
Yeah, do it halfway.
Other
It's just
priorities.
yeah, it's just like, so I completely agree that that's not always kindness. It's almost like avoiding conflict or avoiding the semblance of being not kind.
So here's a question. What things, so I would say that in that situation, so the avoidance of conflict, I think that you could maybe label that as cowardice, right? So are there situations where we mask other things like cowardice or being afraid or other things, but we mask it as kindness? And then like, someone's just absolutely steamrolling me and they're rude to me, and I'm just going to be kind to them. Well, are you actually being kind, or are you just being passive and not standing up for yourself? You can stand up for yourself and still be kind, but like, do we blame it on, oh, I'm just going to be kind. I'm just going to show this person love and just kindness. But what we're really doing is we're hiding under the virtue of kindness for other faults that we have.
Yeah, and a really smart person once explained to me the idea of kind of weaponizing kindness, right? And I think that's something that can be done as well, is that if you know somebody has maybe a soft heart, or you're trying to get somebody to do something, then you can almost weaponize that kindness and say, oh, well, you don't think that that would help other people? Or, you don't think that that would, whatever it is, but just weaponizing someone's kindness to try to coerce them into doing something, I think that's a con artist.
Yeah, it's a manipulation tactic that
Yeah.
can be used. Well, I think that's it's worth saying, like, as we talk about kindness, and like the true meaning of it is being like considerate of others and being generous and friendly. Whenever you think you're being kind, let's keep that definition in mind and say, am I actually being kind here, or am I just masking some other thing? And then telling myself it's kindness so that I can pat myself on the back and feel good, when in reality I'm just avoiding conflict or avoiding standing up for myself.
And I don't think that's always the case. I think there
No.
are people that are generous to a fault, and they will literally give everything they have to other people, and in putting other people's needs before their own.
Yeah.
And that can just lead to, really, it can lead to people not being able to take care of themselves, or they're covering their own needs. It can lead to negative consequences for their own well-being. So
Yeah.
there's really, it's an important balance that needs to be found between kindness and really kind of, I don't know, what needs to be done, what can be done. So I just had a couple more things of ways that we can show kindness, and these are super generic, but I thought it was cool just to look at it. So, offer a compliment to someone, help someone with a task they're struggling with, pay for someone's meal, offer to be a listening ear if someone needs to talk, write a thank you note or a letter to someone, donate your time or resources to a cause that you care about, hold the door open for someone. That one's super easy. Offer a seat on a crowded bus, help the elderly to do tasks that they need to do. And this is something that Mom would always say, is just smile, right? Be friendly at people. A smile goes a long way. And just, I think that's an act of kindness that can just immediately de-escalate a situation and make people feel welcome.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I totally agree. Those are some great ideas, great tips. I would encourage everybody to really take some time, especially this holiday season. I know sometimes we all get together with family, right? And like by the end of day 2, if you got your in-laws and your parents and your brother and sister-in-law all in town, and like by the end of hour 1, you're like, man, I already want to kill these people.
Oh, come on. We're not that bad.
Well, we're not that bad, but some people are.
That's true.
Some people are that bad. And you're like, oh my gosh, these people are annoying the heck out of me. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to show some kindness and try to build some of those bonds. And you might be thinking, well, I'm already showing good kindness. They're already all staying with me, and I'm already hosting. that is true. Or maybe you're visiting someone else, but try to work in this in your daily life, especially around this holiday season. And I challenge you all to do that. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a great one.
All right. I agree with that. I second that. And I would say this season and going into the new year, find a way to add kindness into your own personal creed. In whichever way it fits, find opportunities to drive kindness in your life. And let's build that creed together.
Let's do it.